This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Friday, the 18th day of December in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. The International Court of Justice this morning ruled that it has jurisdiction to entertain Guyana's case against Venezuela on the validity of the 1899 arbitral award, which outlined the land boundary between the two countries. By a majority of 12-4, the court established its jurisdiction in the matter that was taken before it in March of 2018 by Guyana. In handing down the judgment, President of the court, Justice Ahmed Yousaf, stated that the court's jurisdiction is limited to the claims of either party that existed on the date that the Geneva Agreement was signed in 1966.
The court's jurisdiction is therefore limited, ratione tempore, to the claims of either party that existed on the date the Geneva Agreement was signed on 17 February 1966. Consequently, Guyana's claims arising from events that occurred after the signature of the Geneva Agreement do not fall within the scope of the jurisdiction of the court ratione tempore. In light of the foregoing, the court concludes that it has jurisdiction to entertain Guyana's claims concerning the validity of the 1899 award about the frontier between British Guyana and Venezuela and the related question of the definitive settlement of the land boundary dispute between the territories of the parties.
With the court establishing its jurisdiction in the matter, it will remain open to Venezuela presenting arguments before the court in the case. Venezuela has maintained that the court lacks jurisdiction, and while it did not make oral arguments in the hearing on jurisdiction, it did file documents to support its position. The president of the court said it is regrettable that Venezuela has chosen not to participate in the proceedings held so far. He noted, however, that the case will move on.
The court considers that the parties conferred on the Secretary General the authority to choose, by a decision which is binding on them, the means to be used for the settlement of their controversy. The court then turns to the interpretation of the last sentence of Article 4, Paragraph 2 of the Geneva Agreement, which provides that the Secretary General, and I quote, shall choose another of the means stipulated in Article 33 of the Charter of the United Nations, and so on, until the controversy has been resolved, or until all the means of peaceful settlement there contemplated have been exhausted. End of quote. Given that Article 4, Paragraph 2 of the Geneva Agreement refers to Article 33 of the Charter of the United Nations, which includes judicial settlement as a means of dispute resolution, the court considers that the parties accepted the possibility of the controversy being settled by that means. The court notes that according to the wording of Article 4, Paragraph 2 of the Geneva Agreement, the parties conferred on the Secretary General the authority to choose among the means of dispute settlement provided for in Article 33 of the Charter until the controversy has been resolved.
In the handing down of the judgment today, the president of the ICJ also retraced the steps taken that eventually resulted in the case making its way before the International Court. Guyana moved to the court after the Secretary General of the United Nations advised that the court makes a final judgment on the matter after repeated attempts at the UN Good Offices process failed. The former and present Guyana governments have been united in their position of the case before the ICJ, as they see it as a non-partisan matter and one that is grounded in maintaining the country's territorial integrity. More news coming up in a moment.
Guyana, we've been through it all.
But as a people we have
weathered every storm
and risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
all the people,
regardless of race,
class, or religion.
We
are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Elite Fragrances and Tradings is your destination for the most luxurious deodorant, perfume, cologne, body spray, sunglasses, wallet, belt, spas, men hair products, and much more. Elite Fragrances and Tradings, 123 Regent Road border between Ornock Street and Shiv Chandapal Drive. You can contact us on 619-5151 or 227-1255. The perfect fragrance is the ultimate accessory.
I wanna be a Super 95 millionaire.
You can be a Super 95 millionaire this Christmas when you purchase $3,000 or more Super 95 fuel from Guyana service stations. Enter to win one of two first prizes of $1 million plus weekly cash prizes up to $500,000. That's not all. Each week until January 15, 2021, you can also have a chance to win smart TVs, tablets, shopping vouchers, and so much more. So hurry down to the nearest Guyana service station and spend $3,000 or more on Super 95 fuel, and you can be a Super 95 millionaire. Press for more details.
Ravinas and Water Street and Anans and Regent Street just received a new shipment of leatherette in over 16 colors. Leatherette can be used in a wide variety of applications, including covering speedboat seats, cargo, and keeping commuters dry. Ideal for minibus and car seats, leatherette can be custom made to your seating requirements. Leatherette is easy to clean and sanitize and a better choice during the COVID pandemic. For fast and comfortable shopping, visit us to get the best prices in town. Ravinas and Water Street and Anans and Regent Street.
Mom, what are you doing with GPL on your list?
Child, you forgot I have to pay GPL?
You got time with GPL?
I have to keep these lights on. The customers who think in that manner and refuse to honor their obligation to GPL are obviously not playing their part in ensuring quality service delivery. So, I will continue to pay my GPL bill on time, every time.
I recognize the value of your point, Mom. You were right.
I have many wishes for Christmas. A freshly painted home, a new vacation home, a new car, home furnishings, my dream wedding, new kitchen appliances, a new smart TV, a new phone for Zion, school fees too. Gosh, I still want this work from home office area. I just wish I could get some extra cash to clear my debts altogether. Do you feel the same? GBTI is granting 12 wishes for Christmas.
Welcome back. President Irfan Ali joined members of his cabinet and officials of the Foreign Affairs Ministry this morning to view the ruling of the ICJ on jurisdiction to hear Guyana's case against Venezuela. President Ali welcomed the ruling by the court that it has jurisdiction to hear the matter as a great victory for all Guyana.
We have always stood together. We have always recognized together and demonstrated to the international community together that we are one and we are united, not only on our sovereignty and borders. But today I think this victory, which is no small victory, this victory is testimony to what we can achieve as a people when we're united.
Mr. Ali said when it comes to Guyana's territorial integrity and sovereignty, there is no compromise. He was loud in praise for Guyana's legal team and the technical officers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for their work on the matter.
I wish to ask all of you in this room and all of Guyana to put your hands together, to all our technical staff and all those who play such an integral role, our legal team, for their enormous effort. This is no ordinary effort. Long hours of research, strategic thinking, positioning, and of course, reaching out.
The president said Guyana will remain united as the case progresses before the International Court. The matter was taken before the International Court back in 2018 under the David Granger administration. Opposition leader Joe Harmon.
APNU AFC congratulates the leadership of Carl Greenwich and the legal team supported by the People's Progressive Party. Our case before the International Court of Justice.
Guyana has been pressing to rid itself of Venezuela's claims to its land for decades, with the matter finding its way to the United Nations on several occasions. With the International Court establishing its jurisdiction, all of its decisions will be binding on both Guyana and Venezuela. Let's tell you now that opposition leader Joe Harmon has issued a call for the Auditor General to get up and get busy by investigating the government's coronavirus cash grant relief and its distribution.
We're calling on the Auditor General to audit these spendings. Let us see you, Mr. Auditor General, getting up and get busy again as you were a few months ago. What the PPP is doing is barefaced and lawless in its punishing people who have suffered so much already this year as a result of the COVID pandemic.
Mr. Harmon's call come in wake of widespread complaints from all across the country of hundreds of citizens not getting the cash relief. In some communities, citizens have complained that the persons distributing the cash grants will tell them that they are out of money before completing distribution in the community. During his weekly press conference today, the opposition leader said there also appears to be some discrimination in the way the distribution is done in some areas.
In this process, the PPP activists have been given or designated distribution agents and are distributing the funds in this nakedly discriminatory manner. From what I hear, there is corruption in the distribution. The funds are public funds, and those PPP hacks under the direction of Bad Boy Nigel will be held accountable for these monies.
Mr. Harmon reminded that the COVID cash grant relief was approved by the National Assembly for the Ministry of Human Services. He said it is strange the Ministry of Local Government has now been put in charge of the funds. The opposition leader said there will be questions on the distribution drive and those involved will have to give answers. President Irfan Ali was questioned on the complaints yesterday. He said he has heard the complaints and has called in the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Human Services, and the Auditor General to look into the complaints.
I've heard this from some opposition personnel. I have not received any formal feedback. The Auditor General is involved. I've asked the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Social Services, and the Auditor General to look at all the comments that are made whether on social media or in the mainstream media and to ensure that this benefit is for every single qualifying house, every single household. All right? In some region where the household got and there was a tenant, for example, the pig form was filled up, the Auditor General would have to go back to those areas to verify that it's actually another household, and then the payments will be made.
The distribution of the cash grant relief has started in Region 4, with communities on the outskirts of the capital city being first in line to receive the cash grants. Complaints are already coming in from persons in those areas, questioning the fairness of the distribution. In the courts, an attempt by the Attorney General for the court to discontinue hearing the case challenging the deportation of 26 Haitian nationals failed today, as the Chief Justice said the matter remains an important one. The Attorney General, Senior Counsel Anil Nandlal, told the court that the 26 Haitians were released from custody and are no longer in Guyana. He contended that with them no longer being in the jurisdiction, he believes the attorney representing their interest may now be without clients, and the matter should not continue. But Chief Justice Roxanne George dismissed that contention, indicating that the matter now holds some level of clarification on an academic level, with Guyana becoming a place with many opportunities and increased arrivals. The Chief Justice said there is a clear need for clarification. According to the Chief Justice, even if the Haitians are no longer in the jurisdiction, there remains uncertainty on whether the Guyanese authorities follow the law in relation to first listing the Haitians as victims of human trafficking. The Chief Justice said the state has provided no evidence so far that any question was ever asked of the Haitians by immigration of them being trafficked to this country. Chief Justice George said the state has to answer as to what was done in compliance with the Trafficking in Persons Act when a deportation order was made against the Haitians. The attorneys in the matter have been asked to make further submissions in the case, which will continue in late January. Attorney Darren Wade, who's representing the interests of the Haitians, has been contending that the deportation order granted by the magistrate's court was unlawful. He has also argued that the detention of the Haitians after they arrived in Guyana legally and were granted entry was also unlawful. After first placing the Haitians in protective custody as suspected victims of trafficking, the government then sought their deportation. After a challenge was filed against the deportation, the government released the Haitians and returned their passports to them. The government's decision to detain and later attempt to deport the Haitians came under widespread criticism locally and across the region. The Haitians arrived in Guyana from Barbados, and despite being granted 6 months stay, they were rounded up and taken into custody one day after their arrival. Haitians have been traveling to Guyana over the past few years to travel across the neighboring Brazil and Suriname to take up jobs and reunite with their families. The coronavirus death toll in Guyana reached 159 following the death of a 53-year-old Region 3 woman yesterday. 8 deaths have been recorded so far for this month of December. In the latest figures released by the Ministry of Health, the country has recorded 34 new cases of the virus, with almost half of those cases coming from Region 10. Region 10 communities are currently seeing a spike in new cases, which is worrying for health officials there. Meanwhile, during his daily update on the coronavirus pandemic, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony revealed today that 20% of all positive COVID-19 cases in Guyana require hospitalization, and about 4% of those who are hospitalized end up in the intensive care unit.
And while from the profile of the disease we know that about 80% of the persons who get sick would probably be mildly symptomatic or don't display any symptoms at all, there's that 20% who would require hospitalization, of which 4 would require ICU care. And unfortunately, because we don't have a specific medication to treat with the coronavirus, some of those persons would die. And that's why it's important that we get people to understand that they have to take precautions and remain safe.
The health minister said the situation remains a challenging one as efforts are being made to stem the spread.
This is an extremely challenging time because it's the first time that we are experiencing a pandemic of this nature. And therefore, this disease can spread quite easily. And if we don't take precautions, unfortunately, a lot more people would get sick.
In the past month, Guyana recorded more than 1,000 new cases of coronavirus.
Due to the impacts of the global pandemic, COVID-19 across our nation, essential organizations like us have chosen to adopt innovative approaches to meet the emerging needs of our customers while protecting our employees. Here are some quick tips to make managing your GPL bill easier while we practice social distancing. To register for electronic billing, you can use the e-billing tab on your website. To access your bill balance, you can use 4 options: the website live chat at gpl.net, the online inquiry on our website under billing, SMS Freedom by texting your GPL reference number to 624-0400 or 608-8400, or call our call center at 226-2600. A message from the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
I have many wishes for Christmas. A freshly painted home, a new vacation home, a new car, home furnishings, my dream wedding, new kitchen appliances, a new smart TV, a new phone for Zion, school fees too. Gosh, I still want this work from home office area. I just wish I could get some extra cash to clear my debts altogether. Do you feel the same? GBTI is granting 12 wishes for Christmas.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right, walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong, be the one to live right.
Been through it all.
But as a people we have
Weathered every storm.
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
all the people,
regardless of race,
class, or religion.
We are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Across the region right now, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, is predicting that Barbados could end the year grappling with an unemployment rate of 40%. The body said recovery has been slow and unemployment rates are unlikely to recover to pre-COVID-19 rates by the close of this year. The Barbadian government has not given an official unemployment rate after thousands of Barbadians, mainly tourism industry workers, lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. The central bank has also not quantified what percentage of the national workforce in Barbados is considered jobless. In its most recent economic review for the 3 quarters, January to September, the central bank in Barbados said the average rate of unemployment was not available. Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres has praised leaders within the Caribbean community CARICOM for their leadership in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, even as they confront shocks to their economies via the tourism sector, trade and remittances. The Secretary General made the comments while addressing a virtual meeting of CARICOM on Thursday. He said CARICOM's unique voice is vital as the world tackles shared threats such as climate change, citizen insecurity, and the COVID-19 pandemic. The UN chief stated that the pandemic's socio-economic impacts were worse than the virus itself for some developing countries and economies, including the Caribbean. He highlighted his push for a relief package equivalent to at least 10% of the global economy, as well as an appeal for debt relief. Guterres also underlined his solidarity with CARICOM members in addressing climate change. And finally tonight, international news. More than 300 schoolboys have been reunited with their families a week after they were kidnapped from their school in northwest Nigeria. The boys arrived by bus in Katsina, the capital of the state of the same name, where they were met by President Muhammadu Buhari. Looking weary, some were still wearing their school uniforms, while others clutched gray blankets. State authorities now say the children were abducted by local bandits. Jihadist militant group Boko Haram had claimed to have been behind the mass kidnapping, but some experts were skeptical because it occurred well outside their normal area of operations. According to the governor of the state, 344 boys were freed, but others remain missing. they were abducted on the 11th of December in an attack at a school in the town of Kankara. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, encouraging you to be safe and wear those face masks.